She made the statement in her opinion that the reason he's going to be getting the benefits is because his speech was protected by the First Amendment. That's just absolutely false. There's a huge disconnect between First Amendment rights and intentionally defaming someone. And I have a federal judge and I have a jury who have decided that this was not First Amendment protected activity in any way, shape, or form, that my client was defamed. I obtained a $4.5 million verdict a couple of months ago against Mr. Shirvell.
And what's amazing about this, Deborah, I mean, it's not just this horrific blog that he kept in which he, said all these ridiculous things which are completely false. He showed up at his house. He was videotaping late at night outside his house. He was following this guy around. And this isn't some huge public official. This is a guy who was on the student council of his college. Jeff, what do you make of this decision?
Well, this is actually not that complicated, a legal issue. Under Michigan law, if you're fired for misconduct from any job, you don't get unemployment compensation. This judge seems to have tortured the law in some way to get him unemployment compensation. But remember, he's raised the same argument every time. Don't fire me, freedom of speech. Don't award me damages because of my freedom of speech. Give me unemployment compensation because I'm exercising my freedom of speech. Every time people have said, it's not freedom of speech. This judge now seems to say it's freedom of speech, but I anticipate her decision will be overturned by a higher court.
And I mean, how is the freedom of speech argument even made by the judge on this?
Well, I mean, you can sort of see the broad outlines of it, which is that he's talking about controversial issues. Gay rights is and you could say that is the kind of thing we should encourage debate about, even if we disagree with it. But that's not what happened here. This was much more targeted. This involved physical conduct, going to his office. It involved breaking rules at the office, involving media appearances, including his appearance here on AC 360. So this was not simply expressing opinions about gay rights as a political issue. It was targeted harassment for which he was fired, and that is misconduct, and that means you don't get unemployment compensation.
Deborah, has Shirvell ever apologized or expressed any sort of remorse for what he said about your client? I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but I got to ask.
Absolutely not. We offered multiple times, Anderson, before the trial began, even during the trial, to just drop everything if he would simply retract his ludicrous and ridiculous lies made against my client. Every time he just dug in deeper and continued to go forward. And, as I said during the litigation, if you're not going to make it right, we'll just let the jury do that. And they did in a resounding fashion. The jury was amazing. They listened to every bit of evidence. They returned a phenomenal verdict, larger than what I asked for. It was a really diverse jury from all over Southeast Michigan. We talked to them afterward. Chris's family was there. I was there. They were in tears. The Armstrongs were in tears. And, the judge had already ruled this is not First Amendment protected. So I agree with Jeffrey. I think quite clearly this judge is going to either reverse herself or she will be reversed. You get the feeling, reading her opinion, she never laid eyes on the blog. Because once you lay eyes on the blog, it just screams out at you.
It's beyond protected speech. I mean, it's putting a swastika on this.
There's no possible way.
And again, this was
and that's the least of it.
What's amazing to me is that this was a public I mean, this was a guy working, for the taxpayers, and in his spare time, putting swastikas on students' faces and showing up at their homes, videotaping them late at night.
And a question you have to ask is, why have so many public officials bent over backwards to try to accommodate Shirvell? Remember, the former Attorney General, he tried to keep Shirvell employed, and now you have this judge. It raises the question of whether they weren't as appalled as they should have been by what Shirvell was saying.
We'll continue.